So with the NFL season just around the corner, everybody is all prepared for everybody to be arguing online about whose team is the greatest in NFL history. So with that in mind, I decided, what makes the greatest NFL team in history? So I decided to take a deep dive into the information and find out. So to find this, I needed to find a system that didn't just crown the team with the most Super Bowl rings. I know that's everybody's favorite way to go, but there is more to the season than that. Super Bowls are, of course, they are the main goal at the end of the season. For example, the Patriots and the Steelers are both tied with 6 each. But the NFL started way before the first Super Bowl in 1967, as in like 1920 when the league was first born. That's 47 years. So then you can look at NFL championships. Well, the Green Bay Packers, they have 13. That's more than any team. But then you have to think about, well, what about the Vikings, the Bengals, or the Panthers? You got to put them in an order somehow. They haven't actually won a Super Bowl or any kind of a championship yet. But then you also have to think of a way to fairly compare the teams like the Houston Texans, who only started in 2002, to the Bears and the Cardinals, who have been around for over 100 years at this point. I also had to think about other measures of success. Making the playoffs is a big deal. Just ask any fan. That's the main goal of the regular season. And the Packers have the most playoff appearances of any team at 37. And the Ravens have the highest NFL regular season win percentage at 57.37% for regular season. The Dolphins had a perfect season in 1972, and then the Steelers haven't had a losing season under Mike Tomlin. But then how do you weigh all this information without favoring the older teams who have had a longer chance to win more games? So with all this in mind, I decided to create a ranking system that is about as fair as I can get. I pulled stats from the sources of Pro Football Reference and the NFL Hall of Fame website, and I did go to Wikipedia only when there was no other source. So, don't roast me over the fire on that one. My main source of information was Pro Football Reference and the NFL Hall of Fame website. And for fairness, I added in the AFL championships, and potentially controversial because they aren't technically acknowledged by the NFL now, but I added in the AAFC titles for the Browns and the 49ers because it was a recognized league. It wasn't an independent. I didn't add independent games like the Packers or the Cardinals or the Bears had before they joined the leagues. So those aren't counting in, but the AAFC titles for the Browns and the 49ers, that was an actual league. So to get into the actual rankings, this is the 4 things that I decided on. I went with regular season win percentage, which is pretty straightforward. Who's got the best overall season record? 1 to 32 with tiebreakers as needed. And then I went with playoff appearance rate. How often does a team make the playoffs? I divided appearances by seasons played. However, any team that is older than the playoffs, which started 92 seasons ago, their numbers will be capped at 92 to keep it fair. The third thing that I decided on was championship game appearances, which is reaching the final game, which whether it be the Super Bowl or the NFL championship or the AFC championship or the AFL championship before the Super Bowl. Before 1933, they didn't actually have a playoff bracket that they played with. They just went with who had the best season record, and they went with champion and runner-up, so those will be counted as second place. I calculated the average seasons between these as at least second place finishes. And then, of course, there's the big one, championships won. I counted NFL, AFL, AAFC, and Super Bowl titles, then divided them by the seasons played to get the average seasons between wins. For tiebreakers, after a lot of thinking about it, I decided to give a slight edge to teams that have reached the Super Bowl but didn't win. I know that there's some controversy whether it's good or bad that they reached the Super Bowl and didn't win. I think it's a good thing because they made it all the way there. So that will be the tiebreaker for championships won. So after doing the math and averaging everything out, each team gets a rank in each of those 4 categories, and I add those ranks together for a total score golf style where lower is better. The best possible score is 4, which will be first in every category, and the worst possible score will be 128, which will be 32nd in every category. I also made sure to account for the fact that from 60 to 65, the NFL and AFL had separate championships, and the AAFC had its own titles from 46 to 49. This list is current as of the Super Bowl in February of 2025. This is before the 2025-2026 season. Finally, I did decide I will skip preseason games because does anybody really know what their preseason record ever is? I don't. And I also decided to skip Hall of Fame players, which team had the most, because some players, they've been around the block and they've been on every team. Like, I think Deion Sanders, he's been on, 5 teams? Or like Reggie White, he was on the Packers, the Eagles, and the Panthers, but most people only know him for the Packers and the Eagles, so I'm leaving Hall of Fame players off of there. So that's a setup. It's as fair as I could possibly get. I only wanted stats. I didn't want to make anything seem biased at all. If you think I could have done better, or if you have a different idea for a ranking, respectfully, leave it in the comment below. If you like it, give a thumbs up. If you don't, well, thumbs down, it is what it is. And let's get into the rankings. Number 32, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sorry, Jaguar fans, someone had to be the last on this list, and this time it's going to be your team. The youngest of the three Florida teams, the Jaguars unfortunately finished with a final record of 4-13 last year after a midseason injury took Trevor Lawrence out of the game and the season. I'm sure they look to battle back in the future with the pickup of the very versatile player Travis Hunter in this year's draft. The Jaguars currently sit at number 31 in regular season rankings, having won 202 games and lost 282 of their total 484 games, bringing their win percentage to 41.73%. Interestingly enough, they are also the only team to have never tied a game yet. With the playoff rankings, they are tied with the Panthers for making it to the playoffs 8 times in 30 seasons, averaging a playoff run every 3.75 seasons. Unfortunately for the Jaguars, they lost the tiebreaker that I decided to go with, as the Panthers have a slightly better playoff record at 9-8 to the Jaguars 8-8, giving the Jaguars a score of 26 plus 1 or 27. When it comes to championship appearances, the Jaguars tied with the Texans, as they are the only two teams that have not made it to the Super Bowl yet. I used a tiebreaker of who got closest, and the Jaguars did, considering the Jaguars made it to the conference championship title game, the AFC championship game in 1999, further than the Texans have, which is spoilers for later, and giving them a score of 31. I also used this tiebreaker for the championship wins, because the Jaguars and the Texans are the only two teams of the 6-way tie of never winning a championship to have also never actually made it to the game itself, dropping them to the bottom of that tiebreaker and giving the Jaguars a score of 27 plus 4 tiebreaker points, making the score 31. This gives the Jaguars a final score of 120 out of 128. Number 31, the New York Jets. The first team on this list to have originated in the pre-1970 merger AFL, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers have decided to part ways after a rocky couple of seasons. They just weren't able to get anything going last season. They did end the season with the win, but Rodgers was sacked 40 times, and they had a final record of 5-12. They are, I'm sure, ready to try again this season with the pickup of Justin Fields and drafting Armand Membu to help with the sack issues of last year. The Jets are the first of the many teams on this list who have, according to PFR, played their 1,000th game in the final week of last year's regular season. Of those 1,000 games, the Jets have won 433, lost 559, and tied 8 times. This gives them a win percentage of 43.7% and a rank of 28 in that category. They've made the playoffs 14 times in 65 seasons, which brings them to 30th, with an average of 4.64 seasons between each playoff run. They went to the championship one time, making the Super Bowl in 1968, giving them a rank of 30, averaging once every 65 seasons. They also won that Super Bowl back in 1968, averaging again once every 65 seasons. This ties with the Chargers, however, and I decided to give the Chargers a tiebreaker win, as the Chargers have been to the Super Bowl 5 more times than the Jets, since I did finally come to the conclusion that Super Bowl appearances are positive and not a negative to the ranking. This gives the Jets a final score of 25 plus 1, or 26 for this category. The Jets end with a final score of 114 out of 128. This ties for 30th with the team ahead of them, and, spoiler for the next team, the Falcons, so I had to come up with a tiebreaker for this. I decided for the final score tiebreaker, I'd go with the average seasons between winning their division. The Falcons win this with an average of every 8.42 seasons to the Jets winning of their division every 16.25 seasons. This gives the Jets a final score of 115 out of 128 for 31st overall. Number 30, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have been trying to get their QB room under control for a couple years since Matt Ryan left, bringing in Kirk Cousins and drafting Michael Penix Jr. the same year. After finishing last season with an 8-9 record and missing the playoffs, it appears Michael Penix will be the starter this season, and the Falcons drafted 2 edge rushers in the first round of the 2025 draft to try and shore up the defense for the upcoming season. Falcons, in their 59 seasons, have played 916 games and racked up 398 wins. They've lost 512 times and tied 6 times, bringing this percentage to 43.77%, and scoring at 27. They've done an alright job getting to the playoffs with 14 appearances, giving them an average of making the playoffs every 4.21 season, giving them a 29 in the ranking. They have made a Super Bowl twice in their 59 seasons, averaging a Super Bowl every 29.5 seasons, and giving them a ranking of 28 in that section. They are a part of the 6-way tiebreaker for no championships won, which places them at 27th. They also get 3 extra points for losing an appearance tiebreaker to the Vikings and Bengals, losing against the Panthers in appearances per year, but being ahead of the Texans and Jaguars, as the Falcons have made 2 Super Bowls to those teams 0, giving them a score of 30 in that category. The Falcons finished with a final score of 114 out of 128 points, which ties with the previous team on this list, the New York Jets. The Falcons win the tiebreaker I went with for final scores, winning their division every 8.42 seasons. This is better than the Jets, who win it every 16.25 seasons on average, and leading the Falcons to not need a tiebreaker point. Number 29, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are the perfect example of a team where the age of the team hurts the averages of their scores. The team was founded 126 years ago in 1898 in Chicago and was one of the original NFL teams 105 years ago in 1920. They are also one of only 2 original teams playing today. They ended this last season on a rough but not awful note, ending with an 8-9 record and unfortunately missing the playoffs. The Cardinals have the 3rd lowest win percentage in the NFL at 42.43%, giving them a ranking of 30 with 593 wins, 812 losses, and 41 ties, having played 1,446 games total in their history. This is the 3rd most of any NFL team. The Cardinals are the first team on this list to be around since before the playoffs were a thing, and having made the playoffs 11 times in those 92 seasons, average every 8.36, and gives them the unfortunate bottom rank of 32. As for championships, Arizona gets an unfortunate skewing from age, having made at least second place 4 times, averaging every 26.25 years, and a rank of 27. Yet again, age coming to bite the Cardinals when it comes to championships won. Although they've won more than 10 other teams and have a 6-way tie with 5 other teams, they rank 23rd with an average of 52.5 seasons between championship wins, having won the championship in 1925 and 1947. The Cardinals end with a final score of 112 out of 128, which again ties with the next team on the list. And again, spoilers, it's the Texans. I used the same division winner tiebreaker, and the Texans won, averaging every 3.28 seasons to win the division, to the Cardinals winning at every 13.125 seasons, leaving the Cardinals with a tiebreaker point for 113 out of 128. Number 28, the Houston Texans. Having the opposite issue of the Arizona Cardinals, but a similar one possibly to the Jaguars, the Houston Texans are the youngest team in the league, having played only 23 seasons. They do seem to be finding their footing recently with the addition of C.J. Stroud at quarterback and making it to the playoffs this year, although they did end with an unfortunate divisional round loss. The Texans have a 43.68 win percentage, with a record of 162, 209, and 1 in their 23 seasons, and a rank of 29. They've also actually played the fewest games of any current NFL team at 372. They've been fairly successful in making it to the playoffs, having made it 8 times, averaging every 2.875 seasons, and giving them a rank of 19th. Unfortunately for the Texans, once they make it to the playoffs, not much seems to come from it. They tie for 31st in both appearances and wins, losing the tiebreaker point for wins to the Jaguars, with the Jags having made it to the AFC Championship game, while the Texans' best season got them to the divisional round in 2012 and now 2024, ending with a score of 32. For wins, they are part of a massive 6-way tie with 0 wins in the championship, but are tied for last with the Jaguars as they are the only 2 teams to have not made a championship yet. They again lose to the Jags using the same tiebreaker as before, giving them 32 here as well. All of that finishes off the Texans with a final score of 112 out of 128, which ties with the previous team on this list, the Cardinals. The tiebreaker I went with for the final scores of division winners goes to the Texans, having won their division every 3.28 seasons compared to the Cardinals every 13.125 seasons. This keeps the Texans at an even 112 out of 128. Number 27, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints were founded in 1967 and were unfortunately unable to have a winning season for the first 20 years of being a team, which, considering where they rank, has been very hard on their stats. They've since come to be known as a playoff contender for most of the years since then, and especially since 2000, only really having a hiccup after Drew Brees retired, finishing this last season with a final record of 5-12 in Derek Carr's final year as a QB in the NFL. The Saints' regular season record, like I just said, is skewed because of the struggles they had early on in the team's life, racking up 417 wins, 480 losses, and 5 ties in 58 seasons and 902 games. This gives them a ranking of 23rd with a 46.51 win percentage. Although it took them a while to get there, the Saints in the second half of their lifespan are rarely out of the picture for playoff contention. They currently rank 28th with 14 appearances and averaging 4.14 seasons between appearances. The Saints are currently 1-for-1 in Super Bowls, having made their only trip in 2009 and winning, putting their average for appearances and wins at 58 seasons. This gives them a rank of 29 for appearances, but 24 for wins. Final tally for the Saints is the first one under 110 at 104 out of 128, putting them at 27th in the league standings. Number 26, the Cincinnati Bengals. Looking back over the record books of the 57 seasons the Bengals have had, the second team on this list to originate in the AFL, they've been basically on a roller coaster of doing well or losing their division about every couple years. They unfortunately didn't make the playoffs this last season, ending the season with a 9-8 record, but I'm sure they're looking to get right back into the fray with a healthy Joe Burrow this year. As for the regular season, the Bengals are ranked 25th with a 45.71 win percentage. This comes from their record of 403 wins, 479 losses, and 5 ties through 887 games. They've been fairly consistent at getting to the playoffs with their 16 appearances over 57 seasons, averaging them at getting there every 3.56 seasons for a score of 25. They've been to 3 Super Bowls, first in 1981, then again in 88, and most recently for the 2021 season. This gives them a rank and score of, again, 25, making it there about every 19 seasons. They are another team that's part of the 6-way tie for not winning a championship, but they only need to receive 1 tiebreaker point, only losing to the Vikings when it comes to Super Bowl appearances with no wins, giving them 27 plus 1 or 28. These scores all add up for a final score of 103 out of 128 for a final rank of 26. Number 25, the Carolina Panthers. Another young team when compared to other teams in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers are going through what we can call it growing pains. They've had some struggles lately, ending this last season with a record of 5-12, which was better than the year before, but there's still some room for improvement. They're currently sitting at a win percentage of 45.35% from a win-loss tie record of 219, 264, and 1 over 484 games, putting them at 26. They've made the playoffs 8 times in 30 seasons, giving them an appearance average of every 3.75 seasons, putting them at 26 in the playoff rankings. This ties with the Jaguars, but they win the tiebreaker as the Panthers have made it to the Super Bowl twice to the Jaguars 0. They've made the Super Bowl twice, once in 2003 and once in 2015, giving them a rank of 20 in the appearances column, averaging getting there about every 15 seasons. Panthers are the next team in the 6-way tiebreaker of not having won a championship yet. This gives them a score of 27 with the 2 tiebreaker points added in, losing to the Vikings and the Bengals for appearances, but beating the Falcons for average years between appearances, and the Texans and the Falcons for having it made it to the Super Bowl, which all that math adds up to give the Panthers a final score of 27 plus 2 or 29. Panthers underscoring with a 101 out of 128 for the rank at 25th. Number 24, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another of the 3 Florida teams, the Buccaneers got put back on the map the last couple of years after having the first ever home game and home win in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady has since retired though, and now Baker Mayfield is there to man the ship. Pun probably intended, I'm sorry about that. They've won the NFC South for the 4th year in a row, finishing the season with a 10-7 record, but an unfortunate wildcard round exit. The Buccaneers unfortunately sit at the bottom of the regular season rankings with a win percentage of 41.04 in 776 games. This comes from a win-loss tie record of 318, 457, and 1, and giving them a score of 32. Where they have made up for this somewhat is in the postseason, making it to the playoffs 15 times in 49 seasons, averaging every 3.26 seasons for a rank of 22. As far as championship appearances, they've gone 2 for 2 with Super Bowls, the first time in 2002 and the second time in 2020, led by QB Tom Brady to get the first ever home win in a Super Bowl. These games have given them a rank of 26 for appearances and 18 for wins, averaging 24.5 seasons between for both ranks. These scores add up to give the Buccaneers the first sub-100 score of 98 out of 128. Number 23, the Detroit Lions. The first team to come up on this list that is a rival to my personal team, so considering that I don't just have them at the very bottom, you know that I'm keeping this as unbiased as possible. I also would like to say that I really felt like the Lions were right there, possible to win a Super Bowl. I still think they might have a chance this year if my team doesn't, get in. I feel like the Lions still might. We'll have to see. They did finish last season with a record of 15-2 and an unfortunate divisional round exit, but we'll have to see. We'll just have to see. The Lions have been around for 95 seasons now and have racked up a 46.18% win-loss tie record. This stems from their 606 win, 709 loss, and 34 tie regular season record, having played 1,349 games. This gives them a score of 24. The Lions have been around since before the playoffs were a thing, and unfortunately the playoffs are where they take the biggest hit to their score, as they have made it 19 times in the 92 seasons they've played. This averages out to every 4.84 seasons, and ranks them at 31 out of 32. The Lions are the first team on this list to have appeared in and won championships, but nothing after the NFL-AFL merger and the first Super Bowl. They've appeared in 6, averaging every 15.83 seasons between championship appearances for a score of 21. They've won 4 of those games in 1935, 1952, 1953, and 1957, averaging 23.75 seasons between wins for a score of 17 in that category. This gives the Lions a grand total of 93 out of 128 for 23rd place. Number 22, the Los Angeles Chargers. The first of currently 2 NFL teams in the Los Angeles area, and a third on this list out of the original AFL, the Chargers have made a decent comeback this previous season. After going 5-12 in 2023, the Chargers fired their head coach, and this last season were led by Justin Herbert with a 101.7 QBR and throwing 23 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. That's impressive. and finishing with an 11-6 record, they made it to the playoffs. Although they fell to the Texans in the wildcard round, I'm sure the Charger fans were excited to see the playoffs again and hoping to make it again next season. The Chargers are about as close to an above 500 record as you can get. They have a 494 win, 495 loss, and 11 record in 1,000 games, giving them a 49.95% rating. This lands them at number 19 on the regular season win percentage list. As far as playoff appearances, they've managed to make it 21 times in 65 seasons, averaging every 3.095 seasons. This score's 21. The Chargers have had good luck in their history getting to the championship, having gotten there 6 times in 65 seasons, as well as 5 times in the first 6 seasons from 1960 to 1965. They made it to the Super Bowl 1 time in 1994, averaging a championship game with all that taken together every 10.83 years. This gives them a rank of 14th. However, they need a tiebreaker here with the Bills, which I give to the Bills because the Bills have won 1 more championship than the Chargers, giving the Chargers a +1 tiebreaker point for a score of 15 for appearances. As for the championship wins, the Chargers are the second team on the list to have won a championship but not a Super Bowl, winning the championship in 1963 in the pre-merger, pre-Super Bowl AFL. This average of every 65 seasons for a win ties with the Jets, however, but the Chargers win out on this tiebreaker as the Chargers have made it to the championship 6 times to the Jets once, giving the Chargers an even 25. These scores all add up to give the Chargers a final score of 80 out of 128. Number 21, the Tennessee Titans. Originally the Houston Oilers when they started in the AFL, the Titans unfortunately finished the 2024-2025 season with the bottom rank in the NFL, racked with injuries and a regular season record of 3-14. On the positive side, it did bag them the number 1 overall pick in the draft, where they drafted their new quarterback for the future, hopefully, in Cam Ward. The Titans come out of this season with a win-loss tie record of 48.2% in, again, 1,000 games from a 479 win, 515 loss, and 6 tie record. This gives them a score of 22 for regular season wins. As for playoff appearances, the Titans have been a very solid team in getting to the playoffs, making it 25 times in 65 seasons, averaging every 2.6 seasons. This gives them a rank of 11. Another team that has won championships before Super Bowls but not won Super Bowls, the Titans have made it to 4 championships, giving the Titans an appearance score of 23, averaging every 16.25 seasons. The Titans were the first team in the pre-merger, pre-Super Bowl AFL to win the AFL championship, winning the first 2 championship games in that league in 1960 and 1961. This gives them an average of every 32.5 seasons. However, they have a tiebreaker needed against the Buffalo Bills for wins, which I give to the Bills here as they've made it to more championship games than the Titans did, so the Titans will get the score of 20 and get a +1 tiebreaker point for a final score of 21. All these add up for a final score of 77 out of 128. Number 20, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are tied with the Vikings on most Super Bowl appearances without a win, going back to back to back to back from 1990 to 1993. Sorry for bringing that up, Bills fans, but it's worth noting because although they get a lot of flack for that, they did win their league championship when they were still a part of the AFL. After some struggles in the 2000s, however, having to deal with the Patriots and their historic run in the same division, the Bills have been back to being a playoff contender every season. This includes last season, where they were 1 game away from the Super Bowl, ending the regular season with a record of 13-4. So let's see how they rank historically, and remember, Bills fans, this is all for stats. Don't put me through a table. I don't want to go through a table. The Bills have a regular season record of 486, 505, and 8, giving them a 49.05% rating, and landing them the number 21 spot on the regular season list. They're also 1 game away from playing their 1,000th game, ending the season on their 999th game last year. In the 65 seasons that the Bills have been around, they've made it to the playoffs 24 times, averaging every 2.7 seasons, giving the rank of 15. The Bills have been fairly successful in making the championship game of whatever league they are in, getting there 6 times in 65 seasons, averaging every 10.83 seasons. This gives them a score of 14, which ties with the Chargers, but the Bills have won 1 more championship than them, so they get the tiebreaker, and they can just keep the regular 14 score. The Bills are another on the list of won a title before the Super Bowl, so people often discount them on that, but I don't, and I feel all history matters, and with their 2 AFL championships in 64 and 65, they average winning every 32.5 years. This gives them a score of 20, which ties with the Titans, but the Bills again win a tiebreaker, having gotten to the championship 6 times to the Titans 4. All this adds up to give the Bills a final score of 70 out of 128. Number 19, the Seattle Seahawks. Something I love doing is learning about the teams that have gone by the wayside, and I learned making this list there was once a team called the Miami Seahawks, not at all related to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle team has done significantly better at being successful in the 49 seasons they played, ending last season with a 10-7 record. They did lose Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett all this offseason, so we will see how the next seasons go. The Seahawks are the first team on our list to have a winning record above 50%, with a regular season win percentage of 51.87, stemming from their 402 win, 373 loss, and 1 tie record. This record gives them a 14 in the rankings. When it comes to the playoffs, the Seahawks are one of the most successful teams in the league for making it to the playoffs, getting there 20 times in 49 seasons, averaging every 2.45 seasons, and ranking 7th in the NFL. The part that starts to drag them down is when it comes to the Super Bowl. They've made it there 3 times in their history, averaging every 16.33 seasons. This ends with a score of 24. They've won the Super Bowl 1 time, Super Bowl 48, placing them at 22nd, averaging every 49 seasons. The Seahawks finish off this list with a final score of 67 out of 128 possible. Number 18, the Washington Commanders. Another team I didn't realize has been around for as long as it has. The Washington Commanders have been in the NFL for 93 seasons. They've gone by 4 different names in those 93 seasons. They've been fairly successful over the years and probably will again when they get their QB situation under control, hoping Jaden Daniels can lock down that position, especially with the O-line help of drafting Josh Connerly. As far as the regular season goes, the Commanders are sitting at 49.73%. Having the record of 641 wins, 648 losses, and 29 ties over their 93 seasons. This puts the Commanders at 20th place. When it comes to the playoffs, although they did come 1 year before the playoffs were introduced, this is still the part that hurts them the most, having a big gap in 1946 to 1970 where they did not make the playoffs once those seasons. This sets their appearances to 26 times in 92 seasons, averaging every 3.5384 seasons, putting them at 24th out of 32. However, the times outside that really bumps them up as they have been to the championship game 11 times since they were founded, averaging every 8.45 seasons and giving them a score of 9th. They've also found relative success when getting to the championship, having won it 5 times in 37, 42, 82, 87, and 1991, averaging every 18.6 seasons. This sets them fairly comfortably at 13th place. All those add up to give the Commanders a score of 66 out of 128. Number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders. Anyone who's ever played Madden Ultimate Team in the last several years when theme teams were a thing, they know that there's one team that always gets the best players, and that would be the Raiders. Seems like pretty much every Hall of Fame player has worn the silver and black at one point or another. I mean, their head coach, probably their most famous head coach, is the namesake of basically the only NFL game out right now. So we'll see how they stack up score-wise. When it comes to the regular season, the Raiders are the second team on this list to have a win-loss tie record of over 500, with 51.45% coming from their 509, 480, and 11 record. This sets them just above the halfway point on the list at 15th place. As far as the playoffs go, the Raiders have made it 23 times in 65 seasons, averaging every 2.826 seasons, which, believe it or not, ties with the Broncos. The Raiders have a slightly better win percentage than the Broncos do, though. The Raiders have 55.5% to the Broncos' 53.5%, so they don't need to receive a tiebreaker point and will stay at 17 even. The Raiders are another team that I thought had been around significantly longer than they have been, and I needed to check stats before Super Bowls, but I was shown wrong in making the list, and the Raiders have made it to 5 Super Bowls in 65 seasons, averaging every 13 seasons and giving them a rank of 18th. Of those 5 Super Bowls, the Raiders have won 3 in 1976, 1980, and 1983, which brings their average time to 21.66 seasons. This again ties with the Broncos at 14th. However, the Broncos win this tiebreaker, being to 8 championships compared to the Raiders' 5, so the Raiders end with a score of 14 plus 1, or 15. Altogether, an overall outcome for the Raiders of 65 out of 128. Number 16, the Philadelphia Eagles. And here we are, the Super Bowl champs from last season. Congratulations to the Eagles. In the regular season, the Eagles are 0.04% off of being over 500, with their season record of 638, 639, and 27, giving them a win percentage of 49.96%. This gives the Eagles a regular season rank that just barely edges out the Chargers for a score of 18. Leaving out the first couple of years when they were first getting started and the hiccup in the 1970s, the Eagles have actually been fairly successful getting into the playoffs. They've made it there 31 times, or every 2.967 seasons out of the 92 seasons that they have played in the league, giving them a respectable 20 in playoff appearances. When it comes to championship games, the Eagles have made it on average every 10.22 seasons for a total of 9 times, and setting them at 12th place. As for championship wins, the Eagles have won it 5 of the 9 times they've gone, which brings them an average of every 18.4 seasons. This gives them a rank of 12th. This gives a final score of 62 out of 128 for the most recent Super Bowl champions. Number 15, the Minnesota Vikings. And here we are to the exact point where anybody that knows what team I root for will be sitting there and watching like, I guess it really isn't biased on this list. After viewing the stats and the history of the Vikings franchise, I can confidently feel that I can conclusively say that the Vikings are the best team in the league that hasn't won a championship yet. The Vikings boast an impressive regular season ranking of 55.02%, coming from their 537 win, 438 loss, and 11 tie record. This sets them in the top 10 of regular season rankings at 7th overall. When it comes to the playoffs as well, the Vikings have made it to the playoffs 32 times in 64 seasons, which means that they do it exactly every other season on average and gives them a rank of 3rd overall. Now is when the pain begins. In the 64 seasons they've been in the league, they are currently 0 for 4 in Super Bowls. Some people think that's bad. Some people think it's impressive they made it there 4 times. And in the idea of fairness, and actually the Vikings are the team on this list that I was trying to decide if I should make it really good for or really bad for that they've been there 4 times and haven't won yet. I decided to go with good. The 4 Super Bowl appearances gives the Vikings a 22, making it there every 16 seasons. This gives them the biggest tiebreaker of the 6-way tie for 27th place in championships won, since they've appeared in more Super Bowls than any other team that also hasn't won the Super Bowl or any other championship. This all adds up for a final score for the Vikings of 59 out of 128. Number 14, the Los Angeles Rams. If you've watched this video all the way through, well, first off, thank you, and didn't just skip around to find your team, you've probably been wondering why I keep saying seasons instead of years. Well, the Rams are one of the 2 teams of why I've been doing that, since they skipped over 1943 and didn't play any games at all that year. The Rams started in Cleveland, then moved to Los Angeles, then to St. Louis, and now finally back to Los Angeles. The Rams have been around for 87 seasons. So, let's take a look at what the team has done. The Rams have a regular season record of 624 wins, 606 losses, and 21 ties, sitting just above this 500 mark at 50.72%. This gives a rank and score of 16. When it comes to the playoffs, the Rams have been able to get there every 2.63 seasons on average, making it 33 times in 87 seasons. This ties with the 49ers, however, and the 49ers win this tiebreaker on having a better win percentage in the playoffs than the Rams do, with the 49ers having approximately a 61% win rating to the Rams' 48% win rating. This gives the Rams a tiebreaker point of 13 plus 1 or 14. They've been around since before the Super Bowls were introduced and have made it to the big game 10 times, averaging every 8.7 seasons. This gives them at the top 10 rank of 10th overall. When it comes to winning the big game, however, they have won 4. 1945 as the Cleveland Rams, in 1951 and 2021 as the Los Angeles Rams, and in 1999 as the St. Louis Rams. This averages out to every 21.75 seasons and 16th in this part of the list. All these scores add up to give the Rams a final score of 56 out of 128. Number 13, the Denver Broncos. Another AFL original team, the Denver Broncos didn't really hit a stride until they joined the NFL as one of the merger teams in the 1970s. Since then, however, they seem to have been a successful franchise, being led under several great QBs, including John Elway in the 80s and 90s and Peyton Manning for several years in the 2010s, and of course, who could forget Timothy Tebow. Now the Broncos look to see what they can continue to do under QB Bo Nix, finishing the last year with a 10-7 record, but ending with a wildcard round exit in the playoffs. Let's see what they've done to give them a 13th spot on this list. The regular season record of the Broncos is another that's over 500, with a record of 518, 472, and 10, giving them a 52.3% win rating. This places them at 12th overall. They've also done well getting to the playoffs, making it 23 times in 65 seasons, or every 2.826 seasons. This ties them with the Raiders, but the Raiders get the tiebreaker win for having a better win percentage than the Broncos in the playoffs at 55.5% to 53.5%. This gives the Broncos a playoff ranking of 17 plus 1 or 18. They've done a very good job over the years of making it to the championship game, getting there 8 times in 65 seasons and averaging every 8 years, and tying with the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs and the Cowboys both win this tiebreaker over the Broncos, having won 2 more championships than the Broncos have out of the 8, giving the Broncos 2 tiebreaker points and a final score of 8. As for championships won, the Broncos have won 3, winning back-to-back in the 97 and 98 seasons, and then again in the 2015 season. This gives them an average of every 21.66 seasons for a score of 13, tying with the Raiders again, but winning the tiebreaker this time with 8 appearances over 5. All this scoring adds up to give the Denver Broncos a final score of 52 out of 128. Number 12, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are one of the teams that switched from the NFC to the AFC to make the divisions more even, and are one of the older teams in this league, having played 92 seasons in the NFL. Looking at the stats, if you took every season except one before 1970 away, they would rank number 1 on this list by a lot. This means that the Steelers did take quite a while to get their footing, but once they did, they become one of the most dominant football teams in the NFL. The Steelers currently rank 10th in regular season win percentage, with 53.73% coming from a 681 win, 585 loss, and 22 tie record. As for playoff appearances, they are drugged down here a bit by the seasons before the 70s, making it every 2.62 seasons or 35 times in their 92 seasons. This finishes them with a rank of 12. When talking about making a championship game, the Steelers have made it there 8 times in their 92 season history, averaging every 11.5 seasons and giving them a rank of 16th. When it comes to winning the championship, the Steelers are tied for the most wins post-NFL-AFL merger at 6 with the Patriots. They've won the title in 74, 75, 78, 79, 05, and 08, having won the game every 15.33 seasons on average and placing them at 9th in this rank. This all adds up to give the Steelers a final score of 47 out of 128. Number 11, the Miami Dolphins. The Vikings may be considered the best team to have never won a league championship, but the Dolphins had the QB, considered to be the best to never win a Super Bowl, in Dan Marino. The Dolphins are also the only team in the NFL to have a perfect season, going 14-0 in the regular season, 2-0 in the playoffs, and winning the Super Bowl against Washington in the 1972 season. For the total of the regular seasons, Miami Dolphins have won 504 games, lost 408, and tied 4 times, giving them a 55.24 win percentage and setting them in the top 10 at 5th overall. The Dolphins are also in the top 10 when it comes to making the playoffs, having made it 25 times in 59 seasons, averaging every 2.36 seasons and scoring 5th place. Championships are where they start to tail off, however, having gotten there 5 times, or every 11.8 seasons, for a 17th place finish. Winning the championship is by far their lowest rank, having won the title twice, once in the before-mentioned 1972 season, once a season later in 1973, giving them an average of every 29.5 seasons for a score of 19. The Dolphins' final score is 46 out of 128. Number 10, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are one of 2 AAFC teams that are still playing today. Here's the problem, though. The NFL doesn't officially recognize AAFC games as counting, but should they? I wasn't going to add them in, but I felt like if I were a fan of that team, I would want every single game played in the National League to be counted into a final score. So for this list, I decided to add them in. If you disagree, feel free to let me know respectfully in the comments below and tell me why. But until then, here's the score. The 49ers are another top 10 team in the league for win percentage, having won 630 games, lost 526 games, and tied 16 games, giving them a 54.44 win percentage. This gives them a top 10 rank of 9th overall. The 49ers are just above the top 10 for playoff appearances, ranking 13th from an average of every 2.63 seasons per appearance, or 30 times in 79 seasons. When it comes to championship appearances, the 49ers are just out of the top 10 again, taking the 11th spot for making it second place or better 9 times in 79 seasons, averaging every 8.77 season. 49ers are top 10 when it comes to winning championships also, winning 5 times in 79 seasons, or every 15.8 seasons on average, and giving them the 10th place in the ranks. This all adds up for a final score of 43 out of 128, which ties with the next team on this list, spoiler, the Colts, so a divisional win record tiebreaker is needed. The Colts win this one, winning every 3.4285 seasons to the 49ers every 4.347 seasons. You can tell I'm wanting to get this exact, giving the 49ers a final score of 44 out of 128 for 10th on the list. Number 9, the Indianapolis Colts. Originally starting in Baltimore as the Baltimore Colts and relocating to Indiana after the infamous move, the Colts are the second team on this list to break the top 10 at number 9 overall. After having years of solid QB play behind Peyton Manning and then Andrew Luck, the Colts have been in a bit of a QB search. They drafted Anthony Richardson last year and finished with an 8-9 record, and then they brought in Daniel Jones for the upcoming season. As far as the regular season goes, the Colts are sitting at a 52.49 win percentage, having won 564 games, lost 510, and tied 8, landing them a spot at number 11 for the rank. For the playoffs, the Colts are in the top 10 in the league, having made the playoffs 29 times in 72 seasons, averaging every 2.48 seasons for a rank of 8th place. Making the championship has been fairly common for the Colts, placing just outside the top 10 at 13th, making it 7 times in 72 seasons for an average of 10.28 seasons between. The Colts are again just outside the top 10 for winning a championship, winning it every 18 seasons on average, or 4 times in 72 seasons. They've won it 3 times under Johnny Unitas, back-to-back in 1958 and 59, then again in 1970, and then 1 time under Peyton Manning in 2006, giving the final score to the Colts of 11. Finishing off with a final score of 43, tying with the previous team on this list, like a reverse spoiler, I guess, the 49ers. The Colts win the division tiebreaker, though, winning their division every 3.4285 seasons to the 49ers winning every 3.4347 seasons and keeping the Colts at 43 out of 128. Number 8, the Chicago Bears. One of the 2 original NFL teams still around from the league's founding year, the Chicago Bears won the second ever NFL championship, then called the APFA Championship, when they were still called the Chicago Staleys after the first season was won by a now defunct team, the Akron Pros. The Bears have had their share of success and loss over the years, but are hopeful to get back into being a successful team this year with their young QB and top draft pick from last year, Caleb Williams, and after an unfortunate 5-12 end of last season. The Bears, until recently, held the record for the most wins in the regular season, only recently losing that to the Packers. The Bears have a very impressive 55.11 percentage, coming from their 798 wins, 646 loss, and 42 tie record, placing them just outside the top 5 at 6th overall. The thing that hurts them most is their record of making the playoffs. They've been around since well before the playoffs were a thing, so they'll be getting the 92 season adjustment. They've made it 27 times in those 92 seasons, giving them an average of 34 seasons for 23rd overall. However, when they do make the playoffs, there's a pretty good chance they're going to the big game. They've gotten second place or better 19 times in 105 seasons, averaging every 5.52 seasons for a top 3 finish at 3rd overall. They've won the title a significantly decent amount of times, 8 times, the second ever title in 1921, then again in 32, 33, 40, 41, 43, 46, and then 63. All that was before the Super Bowl, and then they won the Super Bowl in 1985. The age of the team unfortunately skews that stat a bit, averaging every 13.125 seasons and landing them 7th overall. The Bears' 8th place comes from their final score of 39 out of 128. Number 7, the New York Giants. Another team that I learned a lot about making this list. The Giants have been around for 100 seasons. They are yet another team that has been around since before the playoffs and will have their numbers adjusted as such. When looking at the stats to make this list, the Giants were very dominant early on in their seasons. It was kind of wild looking at how dominant they were. They've been good the whole way along, but they were dominant when the league first started. When it comes to the regular season, the Giants have a 52.14 win percentage. This comes from their record of 724 wins, 663 losses, and 34 ties, and gives them a rank of 13th. When it comes to the playoffs, the Giants have made it quite a lot in the 92 seasons they've played, 33 times, and averaging every 2.787 seasons, placing them at the middle of the pack at 16th overall. Making at least second place in the league is where the Giants absolutely dominate. They've gotten second place or better 22 times in their 100 seasons. This averages out to every 4.54 seasons and gives them the number 1 spot overall. They've also made first place or won the championship a high amount as well, getting 8 wins, averaging every 12.5 seasons and setting them at 4th overall on that part of the list. This all adds up to a total of 34 points, tying them with the spoiler next team on the list, the Browns. The Giants lose the division winner tiebreaker, winning their division every 4 years on average, losing to the Browns, who win their division every 3.3 seasons on average. This gives the Giants a final score of 35 and 7th place. Number 6, the Cleveland Browns. The second of the teams on this list that were originally part of the AAFC, perhaps causing controversy on the list here, but whatever. The Cleveland Browns have the opposite issue as the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Browns were absolutely dominant in their early seasons, only losing 7 times in their first 6 seasons. That is not a lot. That's just above 1 loss per season. That's wild. The Browns are also another team that missed several years of play, going on hiatus during the 96, 97, and 98 seasons, and have played for a total of 76 seasons altogether. Let's go in and take a look and see how they've done. The Browns sit at just behind the middle of the pack for the win-loss tie record, having won 562 games, lost 548 games, and tied 14 times. This gives them a 50.62 win percentage and brings them to 17th overall for regular season win record. When it comes to the playoffs, the Browns come in at number 10, making it 30 times in 76 seasons for an average of every 2.53 seasons. The Browns in their early years were arguably the most dominant team in the country, making it to the championship of their league they were in 11 of 12 seasons and going to the championship 13 times total in 76 seasons. This gives them the 5th overall spot from an average of every 5.84 seasons. Although they haven't won a Super Bowl, the Browns have won the championship of their league 8 times since they were founded. They won the AAFC title in 1946, 47, 48, 49, and they won the NFL championship in 1950, 54, 55, and 64. This brings their average to every 9.5 years and gives them second place on that part of the list. All this adds up to give the Browns a final score of 34 out of 128, reverse spoiler, whatever, tying with the Giants, who are the previous team on this list. The Browns win the division winner tiebreaker, winning their division every 3.3 seasons, to the Giants winning every 4 seasons. This allows the Browns to keep their final score of 34 out of 128. Number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are arguably the most successful young team in the league, and I would probably have to agree, for one, because they're on this list here at number 5, but for 2, I don't really remember a year when the Ravens weren't a playoff contender. There's a bit of a confusion between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns franchises because technically, if you look into their history, the Ravens are the Browns team, and the Browns are actually the team from the AFC in the... It's a whole confusing thing. People just go with it that the Browns are the one team through and the Ravens are the whole... We'll just ignore that. For this list, we're going that the Ravens were originally formed in the 90s. So that's what we're going to go with. We're not going to go any further. If you want to figure that out by yourself, go ahead, but this list isn't going to go on it. The Ravens are the most successful team when it comes to the regular season. They boast a 57.37 regular win percentage, coming from a 268 win, 199 loss, and 1 tie record, placing them at first place. When it comes to the playoffs, the Ravens are in the mix on average more often than every other year, making it 16 times in 29 seasons, averaging every 1.81 seasons, and getting them to second place on that list. The only thing that drags them down a little bit is their championship appearances, because although they are 100% in Super Bowls, their average comes out to once every 14 and a half seasons, getting there twice and setting them at 19th place. Similarly, they average every 14.5 seasons per win in the championship game, setting them in 8th place, winning the Super Bowl in 2000 and 2012. This gives the Ravens a score of 30 out of 128 for 5th place on the list. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. The most dominant team of recent memory, the Chiefs are another AFL original team. Moving up the rankings quickly the last several years under QB Patrick Mahomes and head coach Andy Reid, the Chiefs were the AFL team in the inaugural Super Bowl against the NFL's Packers. With no noticeable sign of slowing down, let's see how the Chiefs got to this spot on my list. The Chiefs have a 55.3 win record, stemming from a 547 win, 441 loss, and 12 tie record in the regular season, placing them at 4th. The Chiefs have a habit of getting into the playoffs as well, going 27 times in 65 seasons, averaging every 2.4 seasons, and giving them a top 10 spot at number 6 in the league. The Chiefs have also made it to the championship game 8 times in those 65 seasons as well, making it on average every 8.125 seasons. This sets them at 6th place. However, it ties with the Cowboys and Broncos. It's a bit harder for a tiebreaker here because the Cowboys and the Chiefs have both won and been to the same amount of Super Bowls. This forced me to go a little bit deeper into the tiebreaker and go with playoff win percentage. The Chiefs win this one, having a 54.166 win percentage in the playoffs to the Cowboys' 53.731 win percentage. Both the Cowboys and the Chiefs have won more Super Bowls than the Broncos, so they both get the tiebreaker win over the Broncos, ending up with the Chiefs getting 6th place for championship appearances. The Chiefs have won 5 championships, the AFL title when they were known as the Dallas Texans in 1962, and then the Super Bowl in 69, 2019, 2022, and 2023, giving them a tie ranking of 5th with the Cowboys yet again, winning every 13 seasons on average. Since they've both been to the same amount of title games, I use the same tiebreaker as they did with appearances, giving the Chiefs the win for a slightly better playoff win percentage and not needing a tiebreaker point. This ends the counting, finally, at a total of 22 out of 128. Number 3, the New England Patriots. Unless you live under a rock, you are probably aware that the Patriots, for the better part of 2 decades, were the most dominant and successful team in the league. The final team, originally part of the AFL that joined the NFL in the merger, the Patriots have made a name for themselves of one of the best teams of all time, and judging by where they are on this list, you can assume that the stats follow it up. Originally the Boston Patriots, they didn't hit their stride until they joined the NFL, but once they hit that stride, wow, they won a lot. The Patriots have a 545 win, 446 loss, and 9 tie record over the 65 seasons they've been around. This gives them a 54.95% win rating, landing them the number 8 spot overall for regular season record. As far as the playoffs go, the Patriots have been very successful there as well, making it 28 times in those 65 seasons for an average of every 2.32 seasons. This average gives them a rank of 4 in that column. The Patriots haven't been to a championship game the most times overall, but they've done it the second most on average, making it 12 times or every 5.41 seasons. This gets them 2nd place in championship appearances. Like I said to the intro into this section, unless you've lived under a rock or 100% brand new to the NFL, you know that the Patriots have tied the Steelers for the most Super Bowl wins, winning 6 times in 65 seasons. Interestingly enough, though, they didn't actually start winning a Super Bowl until Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They then proceeded to win in 01, 03, 04, 14, 16, and 18, averaging out every 10.83 seasons and getting 3rd place on that part of the list. This all leaves them with a final score of 17 out of 128, again tying with the next team on this list. However, although I have been doing spoilers for the rest of this list, I'm not going to tell the team this time. I'm going to leave out the name. You can watch on for the next part. The Patriots lost the tiebreaker, winning their division every 2.95 seasons to the next team's 2.5 seasons, so it gives the Patriots a final score of 18 out of 128. Number 2, the Dallas Cowboys. America's team has never gone more than a handful of years without at least making it to the playoffs, the longest being 6 seasons when they first joined the league. They have an impressive win-loss tie record, have won their division 26 times in 65 seasons, and hold the top 2 spot on this list. Let's get into the stats. Until this last season, the Cowboys had the best win-loss tie record in the NFL for regular season games, but were bumped out of that spot down to 3 by the Ravens and Packers after the Cowboys finished last season with 7-10. Their 569 win, 423 loss, and 6 tie record still does land them an impressive 56.58 win percentage for third place. They make the playoffs more than every other year on average, just behind the Packers for most appearances at 36, but doing it in 65 seasons for an average of 1.78 seasons. This gives them the number 1 spot in that rank. The thing that hurts the Cowboys the most is their championship history. They made it to the Super Bowl 8 times in 65 seasons, averaging every 8.125 seasons between appearances for a score of 6. This ties with the Denver Broncos, who the Cowboys beat with the tiebreaker because the Cowboys have won more championships. However, it also ties with the Chiefs, but I had to do the deep dive tiebreaker to find what to do, which if you go back and listen to the Chiefs section, you'll know what I did. I had to go all the way back and find a better playoff record. The Chiefs barely win at 54.166% to the Cowboys' 53.731%, and gives the Cowboys a tiebreaker point, ending with 7th in this category. Finally, the Cowboys have won 5 championships, winning in 1971, 77, 92, 93, and 95, averaging every 13 seasons, giving them the 5th place spot, and again tying with the Chiefs. I went with the same tiebreaker, and the Chiefs eke out the win here with a 54.166 win percentage in the playoffs to the Cowboys' 53.731%. This gives the Cowboys the tiebreaker point for 6. The Cowboys finished with a final score of 17, which ties with the previous team on this list, reverse spoiler, the New England Patriots. Using the divisional win average gives the Cowboys the slight edge here, winning their division every 2.5 seasons to the Patriots' 2.95 seasons. The Cowboys then don't need their tiebreaker point, and they stay at 17 out of 128. Number 1, the Green Bay Packers. And here is where people are going to think I'm biased in my list, as the number 1 spot is my personal favorite team, the Green Bay Packers. When I first started gathering information, it was last summer and be right before the 2024 season. The Packers were actually 3rd behind the Cowboys at 1, and the Patriots were at 2. But just the Cowboys and Patriots having not great seasons and the Packers having decent season, with none of them making it to the Super Bowl, the Packers jumped from 3rd to 1st. The teams are very close. The only fan base-owned franchise in the league, the Packers have been around since 1919. They joined the NFL in 1921, making them one of the oldest teams in the league. Recently taking the record for most overall regular season wins from their rival the Bears, the Packers would easily be on the top of this list if everything that happened between Bart Starr's last year as QB and Brett Favre's first year as QB didn't happen. Those were some dark times for Packers fans. Favre and Rodgers changed all that, and I'm hoping for another big-time QB with Jordan Love, but for now, let's see how the team stacks up against the rest. For the regular season, the Packers sit at number 2 in the league with a win-loss tie record of 810 wins, 604 losses, and 38 ties, giving them a 57.09 win percentage. The Packers are the final team on this list that was founded before the playoffs, and in those 92 seasons, the Packers have made the most appearances at 37. But over 92 seasons, that averages out to every 2.486 seasons for 9th overall. The Packers have also made at least 2nd place in the league 18 times in their 104 seasons. This averages out to making it every 5.77 seasons for a score of 4th. The final thing that the Packers are ranked in is probably the thing that you'll hear Packers fans talk about the most. They've won 13 NFL championships in their 104 seasons. They won in 1929, 1930, 1931, 1936, 1939, 1944, 1961, 1962, 1965, the first Super Bowl in 1966, the second Super Bowl in 1967, the 31st Super Bowl in 1996, and the 45th Super Bowl in 2010. This averages out to every 8 seasons of the Packers winning the championship for the top spot in the league at number 1. All this adds up to a final score of 16 out of 128. And there you have it, all 32 NFL teams ranked from least to most successful. What do you guys think? Did I get them all right? If you think I made a mistake somewhere, I'm only human. Or you have any changes you'd make to the list, leave a comment respectfully in the comment section down below. Thumbs up if you liked it. I guess if you hated it, give me a thumbs down. It is what it is. Subscribe if you really liked it. But until then, till the next time.